Hi, what is a JAD session and what are its various intermingled moving parts? So, we'll answer multiple questions by just providing the solution that I'm going to provide you here. So, what is a JAD session? Full form Joint Application Development. Everybody knows that if you don't, Google it out. But JAD session is a very effective way of collecting information from the subject matter experts in the presence of the development and testing so they could provide their feedback on what is feasible, not feasible, difficult to achieve, or whatever it might be. So, in a JAD session, you are actually meant to do a requirement elicitation. There are multiple roles that you could play. You could be a scribe that is meant for only collecting the information, or you could be a facilitator who is not just meant for collecting the requirement, but he is there to make sure that the requirements are put in place. What are the key roles that you could play as a business analyst in a JAD session? You would have two main roles, a scribe and a facilitator. As a scribe, your main functionality is to make sure that you are taking good notes of all the activities that are being discussed. You do not have to provide your opinion about what do you think about the topics that are being discussed, about the opinions that are being placed. So you are just going to note down things like they are being discussed. As a facilitator, on the flip side, you are going to be required to make sure that you run the whole show. As a facilitator, you are taking care of multiple aspects of not only keeping the topic within the agenda, keeping a track of whether all the questions are being answered, keeping a track of whether the agenda is completely satisfied when it comes to finalization of the JAT session. So, what are the various things that you do before a JAT session? What happens within a JAT session and what are the follow-up activities that are required to be completed as part of something that done after the JAT session is complete? Before a JAT session, you're doing a lot of as-is analysis. You're understanding the system. You're understanding the main crux behind which the application is trying to be created. Why do you need that application? What purpose is that application going to solve? As-is analysis is all about understanding the basic crux of why do we need the new application that is being tried to develop. Why are doing that activity? This is not a deliverable that the client is going to need from you, but it is something that is meant for your own understanding of why are these things being developed. This will also provide you a look into the inefficiencies or opportunities of adding efficiencies where possible. It will give you a context from which you could drive your conversation about how the new application should look like. So now once you are in the JAT session, before the JAT session also, another aspect is creating the agenda, breaking the requirements up in slices which could be managed within a specific time frame, providing the agenda to multiple resources, finding out who are the key subject matter experts that are going to be required to answer those questions and provide them the agenda so that they could be well prepped when it comes to finalization of these requirements. So that is something that is taken care of before the JAD session. During a JAD session, the list of questions that you would open with are going to be open-ended questions. The questions are not going to be asked like in an interview, one after another to get resolution, but the questions are going to be used as the drivers for the discussion. While the discussion is going on, you might very well get a lot of questions answered even without you asking them, because the questions are going to drive the discussion in a specific direction. Now, let's say while the discussion is going on, either the discussion goes tangential or the discussion ends up in a dead air. You go through your list of questions that you prepared for the JAD session and see which is the next unanswered question. Open that question and drive another discussion. You do the same step till you reach a point where all the questions are answered. At this point of time now, you have a huge chunk of data, information that has the requirements incorporated in it, but it is still finding a needle in the haystack kind of situation, just that the haystack is much more smaller now. You've narrowed down your search scope horizons. That is what you do after the JAD session. Now, after the JAD session is done, you are filtering through the information that is provided and trying to analyze which one of those could actually be the requirement and which ones are actually just supporting information that qualify why do we need that specific requirement in place, and not talk about the requirement itself. So that is something what the JAD session is all about. Now, one would ask, why do you need the developers and testers in there? If you have the technical department involved in the requirement generation phase itself, it is not going to be a hard sell when you are trying to do the handoff, because they have been in the process, they provided their feasibility inputs based on which we came up with the output that is required. Now, if they have clearly mentioned that this is completely not feasible within the time and money constraint that we have, the business stakeholders got the inputs and they probably are going to modify the requirements that they want. So you are not going to end up in surprises when you are trying to do the handoff from the business stakeholders to the developers or the testers. So that is the whole process of JAD session. There are other ways of collecting requirements. We'll be doing multiple videos about interviews, brainstorming, you taking care of workshops, and how we are going to conduct surveys. But that's about it for JAD sessions. Thank you.